And welcome back to another episode of Roger That, a podcast presented by HVAF. I'm your host, Nolan Anderson, and we have a wonderful show for you today. Today we'll be speaking with HVAF CEO Emmy Hildebrand, and we'll also be speaking with Olan of CRC, Commercial Restoration Company, who's helping us with our reconstruction efforts of Manchester apartments. Today we'll be speaking with Emmy about the update on the Manchester Apartments North Tower, how excited we are with the progress we've made, a little bit about the open house coming up this month, June 11th, and we'll speak with Olan a little bit about the construction efforts. We're really looking forward to discussing this with Emmy and Olan, and stay tuned for an exciting conversation. All right, and welcome back to Roger That Podcast. I'm here with Miss Emmy Hildebrand. She is our CEO here at HVAF, and she's here to give us a little update about our progress of the Manchester fire that happened on October 26th of late last year. So, Emmy, give us a little update. How's the progress been? Where are we at right now?
So the progress has been remarkable. It's hard to believe it's only been 6 months since the building was completely devastated by a fire. But we've made great progress. So we are, I would say, the majority through the renovations of the North Tower, which you may remember was heavily damaged by water. I had the opportunity to review something called a moisture map that was done on that tower after the fire. And there were only 4 walls that weren't wet after the fire. So that kind of gives you an idea of the amount of damage. But all of that wet material has been removed. New drywall is hung. Painting is happening. Cabinets are being installed. So we're moving forward at a really quick pace to be able to house veterans there again in June.
Awesome. So remind me, there's 2 towers. We have the south and the north, and the south was the one that was mostly damaged by the fire, correct?
Yes, the fire started in the South Tower and it burned through the attic. That tower is completely devastated. It obviously had significant fire damage, but it also had no roof for a period of weeks. And so all of the weather that happened after the fire happened inside the building too. So significant mold growth and just wetness everywhere. So we're really excited there too because we've been working with Guide on Design, which is a local veteran-owned architecture firm, to redesign that space to make sure that we are opening a building that meets the needs of veterans in our community now, but also for the future. So we're almost done with design plans, which show that we'll add 15 more units and double the size of our pantry space.
Awesome, and that's very much needed. So about the North Tower, could you talk a little bit about the team that helped with the reconstruction over there? That was CRC Construction, correct?
So Commercial Restoration Company is a company that was recommended to us by our insurance company. They're one of many companies nationally that have the capability to respond to a large disaster like Manchester Fire. So they were on ground pretty soon after the fire, and they handled all of the immediate remediation. So they were able to, put a temporary roof on, secure the building, and then they took out all of the damaged parts too. And in the South, sometimes that was bucket by bucket of charred material.
Yeah.
But they have been great to work with. They understand our mission and they care about the veterans we serve too. So they've been pulling just as hard as we have to get this done.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to speak with Olan, and he really leaned on the fact that they really are deploying boots on the ground as quickly as they can possibly do so after a disaster. So it was really great to see how quickly they got to working on. And speaking of that, did you think that we would come back and have at least a soft reopening of these units so quickly?
No, in reflecting on this, the night of the fire was pretty traumatic, as you can imagine. And I recall standing out in Pennsylvania Street. The whole street was flooded by water that was, pouring out of fire trucks. And one of the firefighters remarked to me that they might just burn the whole building down that night. So to think that 6 months from that night, here we are with new paint and new cabinets, it's really remarkable. And I'm so proud of the team that we have in place that has managed this and is going to get us over the finish line.
So talk to me a little bit about what it took, from the community, from partners, from staff to get to this point. What type of efforts did everybody put in to really get us towards being able to reopen these units for the veterans we serve?
So I would start with the hard work of our staff, which began immediately the night of the fire. I only live about a mile and a half from HVAF, so when I got on ground that night, there were already staff here. Lucy, our healthcare navigator, happened to be on call that weekend, and she was already here. So from the night of the fire, our staff has been engaged. Priority number one was the safety of the veterans, getting them housing and relocated that night. But then right behind that, is priority number two, which is protecting our building and renovating it in a way that makes sense. So we've all been working on both of those efforts these whole 6 months.
Awesome. Yeah, it really has been a team effort and it really has taken a lot of the community. And, everybody has been so helpful with donations and time. And it really has been a group effort. And so we're very appreciative of them.
We are, and we can't overstate the importance of our community. So many community folks are calling me the night of the fire. United Way was checking in on me, other people, but those donations have also helped us realize what a new Manchester can look like. So the job of insurance is to restore us to what we had. But the generous donations of our community will allow us to open a facility that better meets the needs of our veterans in terms of more units to house veterans exiting
Hmm.
homelessness, but also the pantry space. We've seen such growth in the need for pantry services. Last year, we distributed 105,000 pounds of food and clothes. So having a bigger space that's easier to navigate, that has on-site storage, will make meeting that need much easier for our team.
Yeah, and I was going to say the on-site storage is, something people might not think of, but we still have those storage units in our parking lot just because of the overflow after the Manchester fire. So having that extra space will really allow us to better serve the veterans that, come through our programs.
Absolutely. And even just simple changes like we'll move our donation drop off location from off of busy 10th Street to back behind the parking lot behind Manchester. So a li- even little improvements are going to make a big change in how we operate.
Yeah, so, it really is the silver lining after a disaster of how we're able to regrow and come back better.
Absolutely.
So, speaking a little bit of the community involvement, I wanted to ask a little bit about an interesting story that I got from Olan. Olan is the on site manager here for CRC, and he mentioned that you guys actually spent the holidays together. So, could you share a little bit about that?
We did. So Thanksgiving was just a few weeks after the fire, and Olin was on site constantly in those days, helping make sure that we were getting the project off to a good start. And he mentioned that he had sent the rest of the leadership team home for Thanksgiving weekend so they could be with their families, but he was going to stay here to allow work continue throughout the weekend. So I thought about it, and it reminded me of Thanksgiving 2012. My husband was deployed to Afghanistan and was actually coming home on Thanksgiving 2012. So I know what it's like to not spend Thanksgiving with the people that you love and
Hmm.
not with your family, and how lonely it would be to spend it in a hotel room in Indianapolis. So I just invited Olin to come to my house for Thanksgiving with my family. I have a big family, so a couple more people isn't going to change the menu all that much. So he accepted, and he and his wife Lisa, who also works for CRC, came over for Thanksgiving, and we had a great time just pausing for the holiday.
Yeah, I think it really exemplifies how, they really are community partners and not just people who are, coming into work, that we really do embrace everybody who works with us towards building back our mission.
Absolutely. I would just like to say we're so appreciative of how great they've been to work with. They've really helped us realize what the space could be, even from the early walkthroughs when there was still water everywhere and charred damage. They were like, hey, like this is an opportunity. This whole South Tower is going to be a blank canvas. Make sure you take the opportunity to make the changes that you need. And so every idea we've gone to them with, we've walked through what will be the new pantry space so many times
Hmm.
with the CRC staff, and their feedback and input has been really helpful as we think through what the space can be.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting once it gets out. And speaking of walkthroughs, we're going to have an opportunity to let some of our community walk through some of the finished units. So if you could go ahead and let us know what that's going to be.
Sure. On June 11th, we're going to host an open house from 4:30 to 7:30 here at HVAF headquarters, which is right next to Manchester Apartments, and we'll be taking tours over there to look at it. Um, that as we mentioned earlier, the community really, from the moment the building caught on fire, has been here to help us, and we just want to show them the progress that we've made. It's encouraging to everyone to think that from such destruction and disaster, hope can still arise, and that's what we'll be seeing. in the first week of June or so, is that there will be new life there. There will be 23 new beds for veterans opening. Honestly, in June, for the first time since October, we'll be operating at full capacity in our transitional housing program, which is we're celebrating because that means more veterans will have the opportunity to exit unsheltered homelessness and find new hope and new life here at HVAF.
All right, so if you could just introduce yourself, your first and last name, and who you are with your organization.
Olan Harston. I'm Director of Construction for Commercial Restoration Company.
Okay, and so what does your company do?
So we are a large loss insurance restoration company. Basically, we go in after disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, floods. First portion is you go in, stabilize a building, do demo, dry these buildings down, and then hopefully on the back end of it, we come back and put these buildings back together for our customers.
So you're used to the walking through the fired out building and things like that.
Yes,
so that's something
absolutely.
that you're aware of. So when was the first time that you walked through the Manchester building when you guys started on here?
That was the first week or two in November, I believe. I don't have the exact date, but.
So what's like the process? Once you get in, you see all the damage. What was your guys' first plan of action?
The worst part about these disasters is people lose what they have, and especially some of the folks you guys have here, that is all they have. And, so it's tragic. There's nothing good about a disaster. But when we first got here, basically we actually started in the North Tower because that was the least impacted building.
And that was the one that mostly just had water damage,
It did.
right?
It just had the water damage. So we knew our first idea was, hey, let's get in there. Our first plan, we set up what they call a desiccant, which is a big machine that blows warm, dry air in there. And we set it up and we ran tubes. And what it does,
I remember the tubes.
Yes, and it stabilizes the climate inside this building so it doesn't get any worse, right? So until we can get it climatized, because obviously when you have water in the building and it's not climatized, you run the risk of growing. Growth and mold and such in those kind of buildings. So that was our first step. Stabilized it, kept it from getting any worse, and then we established a plan of demoing it. And once we got through demoing the North Tower, then that is when we moved over to the South Tower. The South Tower didn't have a roof on it, so it had months of rain and snow and everything else.
And that was towards the end of the year with Indiana weather, so it was
absolutely
everything you could imagine going into
everything.
That building.
And we didn't until we got a drawing that showed us how to put the temporary roof on there. There was nothing we could do. So I mean, you can't dry the building down until you get a temporary roof on it. So we spent weeks and weeks getting this temporary roof back on it, and then we were able to start moving the debris and all the contents that was left in that burnout building. That was, I will say, it was one of the hardest demos I've ever done personally, because it took, there's so much plaster and drywall and layers of building material on the inside.
I was about to say it's like 100-year-old building, so it's got
1927, I believe, yes.
Baseline of so much materials on it,
and then, there was some asbestos material, lots of growth, so we had to deal with those things. That's kind of where it was.
So a little bit about your organization. Where are you guys based out of? Do you operate all throughout the country?
We do. So we're actually the largest privately held restoration company in America to date. We're owned by one man, and our corporate is in Denver. Our business model is not to have a bunch of brick and mortars all over the country. We are remote for the most part. We have offices in Denver, Seattle, Los Angeles, the LA area, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee. So that's, again, we don't have that model to have a ton of brick and mortar. So we want to be remote. If you have a loss here in Indy, we can be here within the next day. But Denver is our corporate, so yes.
But you can be boots on the ground anywhere in the country, basically, in a day.
At 100%, yeah.
Awesome.
I have project managers that work for us. Then they can live wherever they want in the country, as long as they got an airport they can get to. So they are used to traveling. That's their gig.
So obviously you do a lot of work. I mean, you mentioned, all the disaster release type stuff you'll do, like maybe after a fire or hurricane and things like that. This one was a little unique. Not a regular building. It's our housing units. I think there were 48 veterans living there, and they were, all on the street beforehand.
I just wanted to know, what was your mindset going in where, it's not just a reconstruction project, it's something that really benefits, our community here and the veterans that we serve, why our organization exists. So
Right.
if you could just talk about, what that means to you being able to work on something that, gives back to the veterans.
Well, for sure, and that is very true about this project in particular. I mean, we do multifamily hotels, housing. I mean, buildings. I mean, that is our gig. So I've done millions of hotel rooms, but that to me, that's just a job, and we do that very well as a company. But once I really got here and realized what HVAF was and what they stand for, and it became a different meaning, And I even told my men at one point, this is going to make your heart feel good because it is again not just a job. This has some purpose, and if we can get that North Tower back up and going and get 19 folks and veterans back in there sooner than later, man, that's a win all day long. And so that's the South Tower is what it is. It's going to take some time, but we committed to getting this North Tower done because we knew that it was minimally impacted, and we knew what we needed to do to get it back together, and so that's what we're committed to. And so, I mean, there's nothing more exciting than being able to get some folks back in this, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. So we're working on a couple of all the veterans who were displaced. They're either in temporary or permanent housing now.
Sure.
But we have a couple people who are going to come back for the opening. We're going to make sure to bring back some of the firefighters as well, just because it's really going to be a momentous day. In Indianapolis, 1 in 10 homeless individuals are veterans, which is
wow,
not a great statistic when you look at it broadly. So, this is something that really does benefit the people who, I believe deserve it most. So it's really amazing how quickly you guys have turned it around.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, I got a great team behind me, and the city has been awesome to work with because they had a commitment to the HVAF, I think, as well, to help get this back up and going.
Yeah, the community has really come back in full force with everybody who has contributed, volunteers, donations, and, obviously our community partners like you guys. It's really been, a tight-knit effort, but, the results are evident in it itself.
Sure.
So a little bit about you personally. Indiana isn't your home base, so you were the boots on the ground guy who was, deployed here to start working on. So tell me a little bit about what it's like to, be in the community in Indianapolis. We talked a little bit earlier about how, you were spending the holidays here away from your home.
I did.
You actually got to spend that with our CEO. Could you talk a little bit about that, what that experience was like, and just, maybe kind of the uniqueness of what our community is here at HVAF?
It was amazing. So Thanksgiving, I came in, I have project managers that are on my jobs for the most of the time. So, but because it was Thanksgiving, I sent those guys home and told them we needed to keep moving because we had made a commitment to you guys so we wanted to keep working, and I came and sat on this side for the guys and let them go home. And Emmy found out that I was going to be here for Thanksgiving, and she asked, my wife had came up to be with me for Thanksgiving, and she asked us if we wanted to come have Thanksgiving with her, and we did, and it was awesome, and she's an amazing lady, and her family was great. Just accepted us right in, and her father actually is a contractor. And
that's awesome.
Oh yeah, so we actually immediately hit that off. So we had stuff to talk about, and heard some funny stories about Emmy as a young girl. So that was good. But that is that's how it is, and she understood that because obviously she comes from a veteran background, and she understands people being away from home for these holidays, and I just couldn't believe that she asked me, but it was a wonderful experience, and I appreciate it and valued that very much.
Yeah, and speaking of military family, you come from a military family as well. Could you speak a little bit to that?
I do. My dad is he just turned 90 years old 3 weeks ago.
Him.
Yeah, it's wonderful. He's in great shape, but he is a Korean War veteran, and he's very proud of that, and so am I. It's something that he's, again, he's been proud for his whole life. So I am very proud to be able to say, hey, my dad was a Korean War veteran. My brother-in-law runs a foundation. He's a veteran too, Army veteran, and he runs a foundation himself that helps a lot of the guys that come back from overseas. But yeah, that's where I'm at on the again, Korean War veteran. And, so.
Well, it really sounds like your family has a commitment to give back to your communities. It definitely shows even through your work. The work you guys are doing and the impact it'll have on our veterans, it's going to last for decades. You know, it's we've been here for 30 years, and you know, the Manchester apartments are a big part of our mission. And yeah, it's just going to be amazing once we get that open. And
Yes.
yeah, I can't wait for it.
No, likewise. I'm looking forward to the day that we can hand this back over to you guys, and you guys can start helping some folks. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Olan.
yes.
All right, and that concludes another episode of Roger That. I would like to thank Miss Emmy and Olan for stopping by to speak with me today. If you are interested in our recovery efforts and want to keep up to date on all HVAF news, sign up to our newsletter, follow us on socials, and make sure you keep an eye out for the next episode of Roger That. And remember, until no hero is left homeless, our mission is not complete. I'm Nolan Anderson, and we'll catch you next time.